Hello and welcome back to ranked draft number 18 for Modern Horizons 3, back on the July ladder. Uh, I'm Mike, joining you again, and we will today continue on our journey to try to get top 1000 Mythic. We had a really neat deck in the last draft, but not necessarily a great one, where we were using Shadow of the Second Sun and playing a much longer game, which unfortunately in this format without a bunch of bombs is hard to do. The draft didn't really go our way. We didn't see a lot that could help us out getting into that late game. So we went 3-3. It wasn't the worst, it just wasn't good. Here we see Static Prison, Amped Raptor as kind of the de facto two best cards in the pack. I personally would rather take the red card. I like Amped Raptor a lot. So I believe, at least for a while, I don't know if it stayed true all the way to the end of the format, Amped Raptor was the highest rated uncommon in the set. So happy to start off with an Amped Raptor, and we'll see where we go. Typically, I'd prefer Amped Raptor in a Boros shell. Just being able to have that nice aggressive curve out. Okay, so here we have Reckless Pyrosurfer versus the Unstable Amulet, I think, is the two best cards. The Thief of... Thief of what? Existence is a fine card, but not something that I'm overly interested to play with the Amped Raptor, and not like a good enough card to like jump straight into the Eldrazi deck. Okay, we're taking the Pyrosurfer here. Again, the Amulet plays more into the energy theme, gets you some card advantage, but slows the deck down a little bit, where Pyrosurfer is a much more aggressive card and lets you kind of play these go wide strategies with Amped Raptor. Grabbing a pick 3 Cranial Ram and a pick 4, probably taking that Refurbished Familiar there. So this isn't the perfect start for the Affinity deck, since Cranial Ram was the first artifact we grabbed. But if we know we're moving into this deck early, then we're pretty fine here. Unfortunately, this pack is not particularly good. We can grab the Skyclaw or the Insight, I would say. The fact that there's a Basking Brood Scale still in the pack, pick 5, yeah. Like, this card is enough better than everything else that it might be a sign that the green deck is going to be more open than I thought it might be, and it would be fine by me to abandon the Cranial Ram and Refurbished Familiar and be red-green instead. Though the Amped Raptor is not at its best in red-green, it's still very good. So, yeah, we're going to leave everything over there. We'll see what happens. If green shows itself to be wide open here, if there's another Brood Scale or a Repurposer or something along those lines coming around, like, near last in the pack, then. So here we have the Trickster's Elk, the Temperamental Oozewag, and also the Inventor's Axe. If we wind up in an energy shell, we want the axe. If we wind up in the affinity shell, we want the axe. But if we do wind up in green, then we want the Oozewag. Axe isn't tremendously important in any of those shells, and Oozewag being able to give like a Writhing Chrysalis or Idol of False Gods or anything else, any of your other big dumb monsters that you manage to get a counter on trample is very, very relevant, and I like having at least one in most decks where I have large-sized creatures. So we were off to a fantastic start, and then might be getting a hair derailed by these green cards. Here we have Kozilek's Command versus Pyretic Rebirth. Kozilek's Command is the better card, not by a lot, but still the better card. But we have no colorless sources so far, and only one thing that even makes spawn tokens. Whereas Pyretic Rebirth, if our draft started off on this Rakdos plan, and Pyretic Rebirth is a very good pick up late. Excuse me. There was a retrofitted Transmigrant, and now we're on the wheel. The Frogmere Enforcer does tend to come around late. Here's two Hydras still in the pack. I don't think that green is open necessarily. The Hydras don't typically go particularly early. But I don't know. This is a little strange to see this late brood scale, the temperamental Oozewag, and then late Hydras like that. Grabbing a second retrofitted Transmigrant on the wheel. The more things that we can Amped Raptor into, the better. Here's a landscape that doesn't really do much. It's got red. I don't really need a second temperamental Oozewag, even if I do wind up switching over and playing green. Junk Diver we're going to leave in the deck for the moment, I think, just because it is an artifact, but it is very likely to get axed. So don't expect it to be there, and I don't expect it to be there, but this pack doesn't really have a lot that I'm excited about. The Eldrazi Linebreaker versus the Accursed Marauder was kind of the only thing. And the Linebreaker is kind of hedging my bets just in case I do wind up with those green cards. But a Wither and Bloom to follow up. It's looking more and more likely that we are at a minimum Rakdos with a light green splash. If we get past like a Writhing Chrysalis here or something. I'm not sure I'm gonna say no, but other than that, we are very much planted our flag in Team Affinity, so we could still use some work. Right now, the power level is a little low. We only have the one Cranial Ram. We have an Amped Raptor, but none of the good rares. None of the big power punch cards for the Affinity deck, and our curve is looking good. We have a lot of twos, a couple ones. We want to keep the curve very low. There's an Emperor of Bones here in this pack. Which is, we're going to snap up an Emperor of Bones. That card is spectacular regardless of what archetype you're in, as long as you're in black. And here's Amped Raptor number 2 over Breathe Your Last. Again, I want to keep my curve very, very low. I want my Amped Raptors to have as many hits as possible. So, in a perfect world, the Amped Raptor only has five or less misses in the deck. So, anytime you play your theoretical 2-for-1 and wind up exiling one of your top end cards, it feels bad. Sometimes it doesn't matter, it's kind of the same as milling. You look at it like that card was on the bottom and you weren't going to draw it anyway, and you're playing a Goblin Piker at that point. But this is Modern Horizons 3, and Goblin Piker isn't good enough. So you want to make sure that your Amped Raptor is going to hit every time you cast it, or nearly every time you cast it. Right now on the chopping block, I would say the Junk Diver, the Void Pouncer, unless we pick up significantly more colorless sources, and the Frogmere Enforcer, I'm not a big fan of. Glaring Fleshraker would be nice, but we just don't have the colorless cards for it. We are seeing a lot more green cards here in pack 2, but I think that's on the back of, we're seeing the Dryad here as well as a repurposer pick 5. But I think that's more on the back of the person who was passing to us in packs 1 and 3 did a good enough job cutting off the powerful green cards. We took the Fleshraker. Interesting that we didn't take the landscape. I think I would have rather taken the landscape there, but that's okay. I'm going to grab this Pinnacle Monk over the Malevolent Rumble that I'm probably not going to play. And kind of continue on. This weird glitch trips me out when you sort the pile and then it like flips back. It's weird. So Glimpse the Impossible is fine in a low curve deck, but I kind of would rather have the landscape here. We do have the Eldrazi Winebreaker to consider, and we want to make sure that we have some number of colorless sources so that we can actually cast that thing. There's a Sentry and there's another landscape. I think I just want the landscape, like I said. Transmigrant number 3 I'm okay with. Like, Transmigrant's power level isn't particularly high, but if you want to make sure that you're coming out to quick starts, making sure you're getting the affinity discount on your Refurbished Familiar, and trying to get the game over with as quick as possible, like go wide as quick as possible. Remember, we have multiple Amp Raptors. That's a Wheeling Basking Brood scale, which is a little wild. But whatever, we're taking our black card. We have fully committed to the fact that we are a Rakdos deck at this point. So yeah, the Void Pouncer probably gonna go. Glaring Fleshraker probably not gonna make the cut here. Yeah, I think clicking back and forth, I think I'd rather have the Sarpedian Simulacrum, to be honest, but like I would rather have the artifact creature than the Void Pouncer. I guess we're just taking the Void Pouncer because we have the Winebreaker and we want to maybe up our Eldrazi count, but I don't think so. We get lucky and open a third Amped Raptor, so here we go. All in on Amped Raptor, and now, like I said, we want to have as few misses in the deck as possible. Right now we have 6. Since we have no other ways of making energy besides the Amped Raptor, unless we get past like Galvanic Discharge here at some point, but I would bank on very simply just having these Amped Raptors for energy. So here we're looking at a pack with 6 versus Lethal Throwdown versus Glimpse and Transmigrant and other cards that are playable but not something we want to take early. Like, not something we want right away in the pack. Lethal Throwdown gives me a piece of removal, which we are a little light on. We go wide very well, but we're a little light on removal. Here, remember we said about the Writhing Chrysalis, but it's sitting in a pack next to a Cranial Ram, and so is another one. We could have just taken 2 Writhing Chrysalises in a row, which would have made our Winebreaker significantly better, but it would have made our mana significantly worse. I think I'm happy taking these 2 Cranial Rams in a row. That, like, we're at 3 Amped Raptors that can hit 3 Cranial Rams, potentially. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but Amped Raptor wearing a Cranial Ram is going to chew through almost everything. Especially if you have the good 1 and 2 drops. Like, we're sitting on 1 million Transmigrants. So there have been a lot of Disciple of Releases in this draft. I think this is the 3rd or 4th one that we've seen. Unfortunately, no real picks for our deck. Yeah. Here's a Vampire or a Skoa or an Inventor's Axe. Creature count looks fine, yeah. I don't really want the vampire. Like, we already have a vampire. The Inventor's Axe just gives us another artifact. We've got triple Cranial Ram. I'm very interested in that, in powering up the Cranial Ram, I think. Okay. So we get a Flare of Malice there for pick 7 in pack 3, which is nice. We have triple Transmigrant, so sacrificing a black creature to the Flare to cast it for free is almost trivial for us, which is really nice. And then a pick 8 Warren Soul Trader, which is, again, working with the Transmigrant and having the Cranial Rams. Sacrificing non-artifact creatures and turning them into treasures can get us some like instant speed power boosts to our cranial rams, which is really neat. So, all right, there's an Etch Slith wheeling. I'm feeling pretty good about this deck. The Void Pouncers again. I don't think they're what we're looking for. We're gonna need to make some cuts. I'm happy. We have 6 cards that cost more than 2 mana, so the Amped Raptor can miss on those 6 cards. One of them has Affinity, so it costs less. There's a 4th Transmigrant if we want it, or the first Glimpse. I think right now I'm thinking about the Amped Raptor and not wanting to miss on the Amped Raptor, and also trying to power up these Cranial Rams as much as possible. Nothing here. Nothing here. Like, all this is just getting dragged to the sideboard and moving on. Sorry, I was saying, of our 4 drops, one of them has Affinity, one of them is free because we can sacrifice Transmigrant. There's a Skoa late, which is kind of nice, actually. Like, a last pick Skoa gives us that one piece of top end that's also a removal spell, which we're a little light on. So of our expensive cards, we have 2 3-drops in Warren Soul Trader and Eldrazi Linebreaker. We have 3 landscapes to be able to cast said Linebreaker. Then our 4 drops, one of them has Affinity, one of them is free because of the 4 Transmigrants, and one of them is actually 4 mana, but is both a removal spell, assuming we get back something decent like a familiar or similar. Yeah, really, familiar, Pinnacle Monk, Skoa. We don't have very many large things, so it's not like we're killing an Eldrazi with our Rebirth, but being able to shoot down any random blocker or similar is pretty okay. Then on 5, we have a Pinnacle Monk that is also a land, so we get to go down on our land count with this very, very aggressively low curve. And then the last thing we have is the one of Skoa, which I think is fine for the games where we do draw a bunch of mana. Having, a way to play a semi-powerful creature that can clear something out of the way or go face. It does give us a little bit of reach as well. Like, a number of games in this format can be ended just by Skoa target you. So where are we at? We need one more cut. The Draftsmith wants us to play the Frogmere Enforcer. I'm not really about Frogmere Enforcer, if I'm being honest. I just, even when you have the artifact creatures for it, when you have it fully powered up, as it were, and like you're casting it for pretty cheap for a 4/4, I genuinely just don't feel like that's quite good enough. Also, the number of artifacts required to get it to where you want to spend mana on a vanilla 4/4. I'm just not a big fan. And paying 1 red for a 2/2 on like turn 2 or 3 is also not particularly exciting. It's also another big card that the Amped Raptor can't hit. So, this trimming a land puts us at 15 lands proper, plus Pinnacle Monk is 16 mana sources in our deck, where we're reasonably happy if we only draw 2 lands. We have 6 cards in the deck that can't be cast off of 2 lands, and one of those 6 cards is a land also. So, yeah, what we have to be careful of then is just making sure we have all of our colors. So here we go. We had a first hand which only had black sources. We mulligan, and now we see a hand with 2 swamps and a Pinnacle Monk, and then like 4 reasonable spells. So I don't want to put back the Transmigrant, I don't think. Like, we're kind of waffling here, but I don't think I want to put back my play on turn 1. Yeah, put back the Swamp. Our hand operates off of the 2 lands that we have, and most of our deck is either going to be things that we can play off of 2 lands, just based on the numbers that we have in the deck, or lands, which obviously is what we drew. So no reason to play out the Pinnacle Monk yet. If we do just draw runner lands, I would much rather have the Pinnacle Monk as a potential option for 5 mana, as opposed to just playing it as a land and seeing what happens. So here we don't draw a land, so I think very clearly we're going to play... Maybe it's not clear. Yeah, we're going to play the Pinnacle Monk as a land. I was just trying to figure out if we wanted to refurbish Familiar this turn, or if we wanted to get like the Dross Claw down, just get another artifact down, and then next turn the Familiar costs less. But we only have the 1 black source, so just maximizing the mana we're using is fine. Alright, land number 4. Land number 4 is actually fine. We have the Refurbished Familiar in the graveyard already. We have a Dross Claw and a Cranial Ram in play. So yeah, we can do this. I should have Dross Clawed first. I missed a point of damage here. So 1 point of damage missed. If our opponent turns the corner or wins this game with 1 life, that's on me. But in for a bunch of damage. This time we won't miss the extra point. We'll get the Refurbished Familiar in before damage happens, so that the Cranial Ram sees another artifact. And opponent appears to be stuck on a color, probably. Okay, so there's the second color. What can they have that gets them out of this? That ain't it. Sure. Alright, so all we have to do is attack, really, right? 6 in the air that they can't block. Block the... yeah, okay. There's Lethal Flyer by itself, and then we don't have to worry about anything. They can't flare us because they don't have a non-token creature. Sure. I think that was... it. There's no wrong way to do it in this case. I think just attacking with everything would have been lethal. Moving the Dross Claw onto the flyer is lethal by itself. So, but yeah, I don't think there was a wrong way to win that one. Okay. This hand has both colors, but unfortunately we can't play our 1-drop on 1 because of the landscape. I think the hand is still very much worth keeping. Like, you're going to have a hard time arguing me off of double Amped Raptor here when we have the mana, but here we go. Opponent figuring out which land they want. Okay. There we go. We did it. We found it. There's the mountain. And then, yeah, we're going to crack ours, find a swamp, untap, and Amped Raptor. Alright, and we hit a retrofitted Transmigrant. That's fine. So Transmigrant, not the most exciting, but obviously any 2-for-1 we're not upset to have. So Amped Raptor into Transmigrant leaves one of our energy left over, which means the second Ampter has a shot at the 3-drops now as well. So there are even less excuse me, there are even less misses now than there already were a minute ago. So Amped Raptor number 2, land, Transmigrant. So the same thing for both Ampters. Attack with our Raptor, since it has first strike, and then play out the third Transmigrant. Pass the turn. Alright, opponent showing us Jeskai here. No good attacks, since we have the first striking Ampter up. If they do attack, it likely means they can get over the Ampter. So probably just either block with Transmigrants or no blocks at all. So our Ampters have exiled 4 lands total, and we still have 2 lands left in hand. So our draws this game have not been spectacular. But fortunately, a couple 2-for-1s. And we're still vibing, still hanging out. Okay. Flare's pretty good with a bunch of Transmigrants. This... So we're not flaring here. There's no reason to flare, I don't think. This, to me, is let them use their resources. Play the Cranial Ram, and I think equip... The Ampters already can't really get blocked, just equip to a Transmigrant. If they want to trade off with one of our Transmigrants that comes back, that's totally fine by us. Yeah, this is completely fine. And then we're in for 6. So we traded a Transmigrant for a real card and got in for 6. So like Wrath of the Skies is the worst possible here. And we still have triple Transmigrant if they have that. Yeah. Okay. There's the Wrath of the Skies. So we're losing 2 Ampters, Cranial Ram, and 2 Transmigrants. So we have 3 Transmigrants in the graveyard. We have our 6th land. Past the turn, we're not doing anything. We're also not cracking this landscape because we do have the Eldrazi Winebreaker to draw to still. So hanging on to the landscape just in case we draw the 1 card in our deck that requires colorless mana. Royal Cartographer getting some extra energy, getting, what are we up to, 3? So we're halfway to an Ancestral Recall. Like I said, we're getting back our Transmigrant. I don't think we want to crack it. I don't think there's anything in the deck that requires double black besides the Flare in our hand. So I'm pretty happy just keeping the colorless up. It only starts to get awkward if we draw a black card that we want to cast while also bringing back a Transmigrant. But I think that's okay. So yeah, here's Skoa coming down. I'd rather take down the Royal... yeah, the Royal guy, whose name just escaped me for half a second. Anyway, rather take down that than get 4 to the face. It's not lethal, so I'm not particularly interested in doing it. And getting rid of the potential card draw. Like, they just showed us Galvanic Discharge, so they could have gone, end step Discharge, get the 3 energy and not spend it, and then draw 3. And I think that's how we potentially lose, so... They went to Fanged Flames, our Transmigrant, and we took that opportunity to Flare of Malice down the 1 creature that they did have. Because we had multiple Transmigrants, I think we could have left the Flare in hand. I'm not sure. Like, the problem is the Hexgold Slith would have gotten to attack at least once and maybe twice if we do it that way. If we don't flare and just let the Fang Flames take it. The Fang Flames exiling one of the Transmigrants is not particularly relevant unless we think this game is going to go very, very long. And considering their top decking, because, like, we're only going to get one Transmigrant into play at a time. Like, per turn, I mean. We don't have 8 mana. We're still, 2 lands away from 8 mana. So the odds that we needed all 3 Transmigrants are pretty low, but I would have been concerned about the Slith just starting to grow out of range. So I think maybe the Flare was good. Like, we're very upset if they top deck something very large that can stabilize them easily. But I don't actually even know what that necessarily looks like in Jeskai. Just because we're going to be able to go so wide by rebuying all these Transmigrants over and over again. Alright, so they scoop it up. They're at 9. They're about to take 5 if they don't do anything. And we get back a Transmigrant again, so. Alright, Wrath of the Skies defeated. Let's go. Way to go, derpy little affinity deck. You beat a Wrath of the Skies. I'm so proud. 4 lands is a lot, but this hand is good. Hopefully Amter hits. One of our misses is in our hand already, so the odds are, a little bit higher even. We drew the 1-drop, which is fantastic. Getting to start our game on turn 1 is exactly what we're hoping for. That Flare is nice as well. It's also one of the misses for the Amter, so fingers crossed. Let's go, Amter. 2 of the misses are out of the deck. Well, we found one of the misses. Oh well. Alright, so that means that there's only 2 misses in the deck for the second Amtraptor. The 6-drop and the 5-drop. We're going to go ahead and flare down this ooze now. I want to get my attack in with the Amter, and like we know that we're going to be sacrificing a Transmigrant here. Warren Soul Trader in, Amter in. So, we've dealt with an ooze. We've got some attacking we can do. Ghost Fire Slice on the Soul Trader, that's fine. Soul Trader notably can't sacrifice itself. It only sacrifices other creatures to make treasures. So here we have the choice of getting the Emperor of Bones down with the second Refurbished Familiar, or just bringing back the first Refurbished Familiar. Since 1, this one uses all of our mana, which I like. And 2, the Emperor of Bones is something that I kind of want to hold off until it's relevant. Like being able to play it, get a fatty out of the graveyard, and use it all in the same turn or turn cycle, I think is much more interesting. We're leaving open all of our mana. If our opponent just kills off one of our Transmigrants, then we can just rebuy it. Unfortunately, Fang Flames exiles. And if they are not doing much of anything, then we can just crack we can crack both of these landscapes because the Line Breaker is gone from our deck, so we no longer need the colorless mana, and try and stop some of this flooding. We have 1 more land in hand even, so I would much prefer not to draw any more lands. So the Transmigrant doesn't have a particularly good attack. I don't think that matters much. They can double block the Amter, which wouldn't be ideal, but that does put the Frogmere Enforcer into the graveyard for the Emperor of Bones to give me back later. And then I have a 4/4 attacking. So yeah, just in, they're welcome to block the Transmigrant with their 2/2 if they want to. That just grows it to a 3/3 really. So yeah, we have 4 mana up. So end of turn, we bring back our 3/3. They took 2, so that's probably good for us. Glimpse, sure. All right. Land, red card, and they already played their land for turn. So no discharge here. 3 more blockers, though. So we do have to chew our way through 3 extra blockers, which is a lot. Just buying time at that point. I don't know if they need the mana. They might. Seems a little odd that they need the mana when the cards that we've seen are like the Ooze, the Enforcer, and a Drawsclaw. Their deck might be a little all over the place if they're looking for extra mana off of the Glimpse there. Not sure. So we don't really need to get the Ooze into play this turn. We'd rather leave 4 mana up. If the Transmigrant dies, we have the Wither and Bloom as well. Sure. Sure. Um, yeah, so I think this is a mistake. I don't think that we should be using our Wither and Bloom here. I think we should have just let this trade happen, kill off 2 of their things, and then end of turn bring back the Transmigrant and still have a Wither and Bloom in our hand. Um, oh, that's a big fella. Doesn't doesn't do anything though, right? It's just a big fella. Let's see. Block the 4. That's 2, 3, 6. This is lethal. Activate Emperor of Bones. Attack with everything. This is lethal. Emperor of Bones is the biggest thing. So you block the 4. Yeah. Okay. So that was 8 damage coming across, I think, because of the Drawsclaw trigger. But okay. We did it. Guessing they were splashing the Imsker. Gotta be, right? That was... No? We saw red card, other red cards. I'm not sure, actually. Were they splashing green? We saw 3 forests. That's kind of a lot. I'm unsure. They might have just been, like, actual Jund proper. Alright, sorry. Anyway, keeping this hand, 2 swamps, Pinnacle Monk cards. Not the most exciting, but it's fine. We want to start getting artifacts down so that we can try to get this familiar down for less than 4 mana. So, very likely Drawsclaw on 2 over Pyrosurfer. Yeah. That said, Pyrosurfer is better the earlier you play it. So. Alright. So yeah, we played our land, so we're kind of committed off of the Pyrosurfer here. Yep. Familiar. Please discard. Unfortunately, we don't have any good attacks with our Drawsclaw Germ. We also need to draw a land for the Germ to be able to attack into the Gargoyle. Discarding an island here. So we could have gone Pyrosurfer, land, attack with both, offer the trade for the Pyrosurfer, which isn't the worst, but I think we can go wide enough, just kind of in general with this deck, that the Pyrosurfer might wind up being useful later, but I don't know. It does get worse the later in the game when you just don't have the land drops for it. But having the evasive pressure in the familiar is also worthwhile. Even if they have a flyer, they can. I'm happy to try to race. That's kind of what the deck does, right? Like we're a very low to the ground aggressive deck. So, what do we got? Okay, Emrakul's Messenger. More flyers from the opponent, so probably not going to be able to race particularly well. We do have two black sources here, so we can Wither and Bloom and Transmigrate if we want to. Yeah. By killing the 2-2, we just open up the attack with both of our creatures this turn. So if they want to block, they can trade off with a Germ or our Familiar. Trading off with a Familiar opens up our Rebirth to be pretty good later, because there will be a 4-mana creature in our graveyard. Obviously, like, they're probably not going to trade with the Germ, but that's just 2 damage that we get to attack with. So, there we go. And then a Transmigrant. So, no blocks, which is fine. So the Wither and Bloom was worth 4 damage there. Nyxborn Unicorn on the Messenger with no other creatures in play. Okay. Yeah, we'll take 4. This feels like a race we win, right? Like we're showing more damage than them. We drew the land, so we went to play it, but especially with the land, let's get the Pyro Surfer in. Let's throw a counter somewhere. Let's just use all of our mana this turn and just maximize damage this turn while they're tapped out and try to race. Show them that racing was a bad idea. So yeah. Opponent at 5. They can block our 3/3 and take 5. So they have to do something here, or they are just dead. Good old chunk in for 11. What was pretty nice. Okay, they are attacking us. So either, what can they have? Suppression rate. Oh, okay, a second Wrath of the Skies deck. Sure. Yep. I have been wrathed again. They do have to spend 4 energy to clear my board here, so a little bit of upside. Alright, we could Ampter, but I think just end step Refurbished Familiar. It cuts off any sorcery speed removal that our opponent might have. Also, good versus counter spells. Like, they cannot counterspell this. So, instant speed removal only. We could play the Cranial Ram here and try to force lethal, but like it seems so unlikely that our opponent didn't have a play at all that like forcing lethal just isn't, or not forcing, but like attempting to show lethal. I just didn't like my odds of it working. So I would rather just attack and then figure out what the board looks like after the attack and then use all my mana then. Sure. So they get a Reform. I don't think that card matters. So if we ram and equip to a Transmigrant, that's +3. So that's, they have to block the 4 here, and then they take 3 down to 2. Sure. Okay. So now 2 of my 3 creatures are lethal. Okay. So if this is all they have, we can play another Transmigrant and flare this away, or we can just untap and... Okay, the land We can Pyretic Rebirth, get back the familiar, shoot down the zealot, and then play the familiar to get the last card out of their hand, just in case it's like a Razorgrass ambush or something. Yeah, okay. So if the last card was Razorgrass Ambush, that could have kept them alive, but because we get to familiar before combat, the ambush is no longer an out. So that's 2 Wrath of the Skies decks down in our very low to the ground affinity deck. So that's nice. Happy to beat Wrath of the Skies twice with this deck. And we're up to 4 wins. So yippee! We have another good draft. Trophy into 3/3 into whatever this one winds up being. Much happier now than I was uh, about a week ago. These games are much more fun to talk about, I think. Unfortunately, we couldn't have our 1-drop on turn 1 with no black source on 1, just the landscape. So we had to pass up on the Transmigrant on 1. We're still going to put this Cranial Ram down. It does also mean that we had to crack one of our 3 landscapes so that we can't play this Line Breaker. But we do pretty desperately need black mana in this deck, and I don't think waiting till we put 3 lands into play to play the Line Breaker before finding our black source is a good proposition. Alright, opponent on Teamer here. So we can Cranial Ram number 2, attack, and flash in an Inventor's Axe, get in a nice 5 damage. They're probably not blocking a 2/1, but suddenly 5. So here's a quarter of their life. Seems better. I'll take that. And now our familiar only costs 1 mana as well. Alright, what do we got? Opponent, Forest. Forest Chrysalis, sure. Alright, so Writhing Chrysalis is predictably a pain in the butt. Oh, from the axe, right. Sorry, I was looking at the 2 energy that we had and trying to figure out how we had 2 energy. Okay, so there are very few misses here then for the Amped Raptor. If we're going to 4 energy, it's just Skoa and uh, the land Pinnacle Monk. Skoa and Pinnacle Monk that would have been misses. Everything else is a hit here. Okay. Unfortunately, I remember this. So opponent's going to chump block the 6/1 and then block the 4/1. Sure. Sacrifice a thing, grow the Chrysalis. You got it. Sacrifice a thing, grow the Chrysalis. It doesn't die. You got it. I will sacrifice my Amped Raptor to make a treasure. It's a trade again. Sacrifice their thing. Okay, and here's where my monkey brain took over, and I'm like, okay, sacrifice a creature, make a treasure, grow my thing, click OK. Wait, I needed to sacrifice the chump blocked germ, not the flying creature, to force this trade. So yeah, I was supposed to sacrifice the germ that had the cranial ram and Inventor's Axe equipped to it. And if I did that, then this germ is a 6/1. This trade happens, and there's a Chrysalis out of play. A large Chrysalis out of play, mind you. So yeah, I messed this up, and a little frustrated by it. This was kind of an egregious misplay on my part. The difference between trading with this Chrysalis and not is huge because we also cost ourselves creatures. And if we were trading those creatures but getting rid of the Chrysalis, then that's fine because we have these two Cranial Rams that make any creature that we do have in play a sizable threat. So, yeah, I'm real frustrated here. So they have a 6/6 and a 6/7, and we can still like win these combats or at least trade in these combats, but we shouldn't have to kill this 6/7 because we already did. So, all right. Both of these creatures are now gigantic. This is also a lethal attack, by the way. So, like, they have to trade with at least one of my creatures. It's non-negotiable. They're at 15. I'm attacking for 17. So they trade off with the Warren Soul Trader, and they're willing to take 8 to keep their Chrysalis around, which is probably bad for me. Notably, the Soul Trader was the only non-artifact I had, so the size of my Cranial Rams doesn't change based on blocking the Soul Trader. And here's where not killing that Chrysalis matters tremendously. If we had killed the Chrysalis, they play the Wumpus Aberration. We don't care. We attack. They have to trade. And we're in just so much of a better position. Yeah. So we're shrinking the Cranial Ram to play the Skoa. The Skoa clears the creature, and we get in for 7, getting back most of the life gain that they just had, but they just drew 1,000,000 cards, and Spawn Gang Commander is incredible against my deck. Yeah. Um, so we can Dross Claw, equip the Cranial Ram to the Skoa, attack. They chump and shoot down the Germ with all the equipment on it. Attacking with the Transmigrant just gets blocked proper by the Spawn Gang Commander, but I guess that's okay. Yeah, I don't. Attacking with it doesn't accomplish anything. Attacking like this also technically doesn't accomplish anything. Like I said, this is just chump block the Skoa and then throw the spawn that you chump block with at the Germ. They even have a colorless land up, so they're not having to sacrifice more spawns in order to use the commander there. Yep. So we can either equip or just play out a Dross Claw. Equipping, so like if I could, I wonder if it was worth not equipping the Cranial Ram to the Skoa and just attacking as is. And then if they tap out like this, we could have double equipped onto the Transmigrant to give it 3 toughness, so that it doesn't just die to throwing one of these spawns at it. That might have been a better line. Yeah, I think that might have been better. Here's a Dread Mask. We do have a refurbished familiar in the graveyard, so we can blow up the commander and then play the familiar. We want to kill the commander right now, because then whatever spawns they want to throw, they have to do it now rather than get to chump block and then do it. Okay, that's bad. Alright, so the spawn gang commander having indestructible here. Hexproof and indestructible, right? I think I thought that it only gave hexproof when I attacked here. And then, nope, it has indestructible. This didn't do anything. This just took away my blocker, so... Yeah, not killing the Writhing Chrysalis and then snowballing that down the road into last turn. Instead of equipping the Skoa, I think we should have just attacked for 4 with it. Well, 4 it and the Germ. They very likely still make the same play of jump blocking the Skoa and killing the Germ. And if they do, then we get to go double equip onto the Transmigrant so that it has 3 toughness and they can't just throw a Germ at it. Or, sorry, throw a spawn at it. So. Alright. Yeah, anything I do, they just throw something at. Attack with everything. Trigger Draw's Claw. Eat the 1/1. Trade with the Skoa. Jump block. Probably throw the spawn at the 2/1 flyer. Take no extra damage, just the one from the Draw's Claw. Yep. Yeah. They can also just kill off the 6/2 if they want to. I think they're leaving the 6/2 around because it's just easier to manage than if I bring it back as a 3/3. We still haven't drawn a Colorless Source, so this line breaker unfortunately has just been rotting in my hand. I don't necessarily think it matters much, but if we drew a Colorless Source, playing the line breaker, equipping the Cranial Rams to the line breaker, and then giving itself haste because it has trample might have been good enough. I always love this play, putting the Dread Mask onto a spawn token or similar, just any one of these dumb little tokens. Unfortunately, I don't see a way we get out of this. So we attack. They chump and throw the spawn at us. We don't attack. They just throw the spawn at us. We equip. They throw the spawn at us. Yep. Yeah, just make me use mana. Makes sense to me. Here's another ram. Unfortunately, that is a very large trampling thing there. Oh, sure. Alright, fair enough. Yeah, I made too many mistakes this game. I think this loss is on me. Obviously, Spawn Gang Commander is very good against me, and my opponent played well. But I think I close out this game if I don't punt it. They're at... Yeah, they never gain 6 life there. And we just get to keep attacking. Also, we still have more creatures. Yeah. That was on me. I did that to me. We beat 2 Wrath of the Skies, but then punted first the Writhing Chrysalis. Oh well. Alright, this hand we have double Ampter, so we're keeping. We also have the Colorless Source. So we are pretty good. Like all of our draws are pretty live. We also have 2 of our 4 drops in our hand, so the Ampter has 4 misses. Surely we won't miss. We didn't miss. Alright, so Wither and Bloom wasn't a miss, but it's sort of a miss. Our opponent led on Party Thrasher. We're still going to cast the Wither and Bloom because we'd rather have it in our graveyard to be used later than in exile. Amped Raptor, not a true cascade. And it does just exile whatever you flip, regardless of whether you cast it. It doesn't go to the bottom of your library if you choose not to, like normal cascade would. So Wither and Bloom in our graveyard is worth more than Wither and Bloom exiled, as I said. So here's a Transmigrant. And then, sure, just get rid of this Party Thrasher now. Happy to sacrifice the Transmigrant to do it. We could have used the Flare of Malice instead, but if we had used Flare of Malice instead, we could have Amped Raptored again that turn. Yeah, not really sure which line is better. In with the Raptor, they can spend all their energy to trade the Cyclops if they want to. First strike happens, then they can pay the 3 energy to shoot the Raptor for 2. Here's a second Raptor. Let's see what this one hits. Okay. Alright, kind of wish we had done that pre-combat, just so we get the trigger there, but that's okay. So we can... Okay. That's... Alright, using their energy for the amulet rather than saving it for the Cyclops, that's fine. Yeah, there's an angel. That thing is very, very dead to this Flare of Malice. Okay, so we untap Flare, or play the player Transmigrant, Flare the angel, and then get back the angel, give our stuff +1/+0, or +1/+1, and attack for a bunch. That all sounds pretty good. Yeah, that leaves us with 1 mana left over. Can't do anything for 1 unless we draw it. Nope. Okay, 2 mana left over. So we can use the Wither and Bloom counter, but I think we'd rather save that for Emperor of Bones, potentially. So here's Flare, no cost, sacrifice this, get rid of that angel. And now we have the fun, if we want to do this full control thing, which we did not try to do. So we're not trying to angel this turn. I guess we just get back a Transmigrant then. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We could have put them to 1. I suppose 1 isn't dead, but we could have put them to 1. Yeah, because we get back the... If we had full control, and then in our beginning of combat, we pay 2, adapt the Emperor, put the Angel into play. That's +6 damage, 2 counters on the Emperor plus the Angel itself. Go to combat, the angel triggers spend the energy to give our team +1/+1. That's 3 more damage. So that's 9 damage. So that's 9 damage that we didn't get that we theoretically could have. Alright. Well, here goes. So, angel +1 everywhere. The angel itself doesn't get a buff. Transmigrants are 4/4. Raptors are 3/2s. Yeah. Okay, so what are the blocks then? Block there and there. So they can eat the... Yeah, okay, that's fine. So they eat an Ampter that maybe isn't actually eating an Ampter, because... No, we don't have anything. We only have 1-drops in our graveyard. Okay, and where do you want to throw this? Okay, trying to kill the other Ampter. That's fine. And then we get to Pyretic Rebirth, get back an Ampter, and kill off this Meddler. The Angel is gone. Our opponent is at 3. We have another Ampter. And we also have a Wither and Bloom to put a counter on the Emperor of Bones if anything neat gets brought back. Okay. Alright, so they had a Suppression Ray that just doesn't do enough. Both of our threats were lethal by themselves. So, alright, there we go. Alright. 5-1? Question mark. Alright, 2 Amped Raptors again. Yeah, keep. Only way this is better is if we draw a Transmigrant. Alright, we did not. We have the colorless source, so we can just kind of hang out and wait. Okay, they have a counterspell apparently. Yeah. Alright, Ampharaptor 1 is down to an Aether Spike. I am sad. Cyclops Superconductor. We just played against these. That's okay. I think we just want to be mana efficient. Yeah, just play the 3-drop. We can save this landscape as well for the Pyrosurfer. Alright, Royal Cartographer. Plus a land. They're up to 5 energy already. That's awful. Okay. Alright, so we're trying to go wider with the Pyrosurfer in hand. We know we have the landscape, so we can +2 everything when we do attack. Do we want to attack with this Soul Trader now? Opponent can trade their Cyclops for it. Or double block, but then they lose their Cartographer, and I think I'm okay denying them 3 cards to kill the Cartographer. I think we should have attacked with the Soul Trader there. Like, I don't need the Soul Trader for anything. It's just a good card, it's not doing anything particularly impressive or important in the deck. Alright, land for turn, 6 energy, and they get to draw 3 cards. Or use all of their energy to cast 3 Reiterating Bolts. Yikes. Okay, so they're targeting that. They're targeting the germ. You got it. So we're going to turn the germ into a treasure token. Let that resolve so I can see the arrow. We're going to turn this Ampter into a treasure token. And then let that resolve. And then this one's targeting the Soul Trader, so it is what it is. Soul Trader can't sack itself. So yeah. We're taking 4. The Reiterating Bolt double copied when my plan was to try to set up a Pyro Surfer was quite good for my opponent there. So we're either we're either playing the Pyro Surfer and at least getting the landscape down even if we don't crack it right away to get in for some damage. This is worth 6, I think. Yeah, this is 7 now. Line Breaker is turned off as a good draw, but that's okay. In, trigger, trigger, trigger. So 4, 5, 6, yeah, 7 from the Dross Claw itself. And then we can lethal throwdown if we want to. We can sacrifice the Transmigrant to kill the Cartographer and draw a card. Or we can hold on to it. They have no energy, so like we could wait. I don't know. This is tricky because like it's worrying if they can get up to 6 energy all in one turn and then just use that energy to cash in for 3 cards. Okay. That's 4. And yeah, so that's they just went from 0 energy to 7 and used their whole hand, and now we're kind of stuck because now they get to draw 3 cards and we can't do anything about it. If we kill off their thing with this lethal throwdown, that's all well and good, but they still got to get their 3 cards before we get to do that. So that's very unfortunate. We're offering up the trades here because if they want to use the energy, if they want to use the energy to draw cards, then they don't get to have the energy for the Cyclopses to kill off any of our stuff. All right, we're just killing off one of the Cyclopses why they don't have energy. I don't know. Maybe I'm not respecting the Cartographer enough here. I'm not sure. Like, they did just go from 0 to 7, and that seems at least a little unlikely that they'd be able to get that high again all in one turn, but that's the, what, 4th, 5th Cyclops Superconductor? That's so many Cyclopses. Yeah. Yeah, I very much either underestimated their ability to generate energy or underestimated the Cartographer itself. I'm not sure which, but I very clearly should have killed the Cartographer to stop all of the card draw that they have, because they're about to have their second draw 3 off of a 2-mana creature. That's wild. So if we attack with everything, they get a free block on the 1/1. I guess it's No, they still get a free block, even with the Pyro Surfer. The 1/1 gets eaten by the 1/3, or I'm sorry, the 2/1 gets eaten by the 1/3, which also draws 3 cards. Discharge on the Surfer, trigger prowess. Yeah. So yeah, it's either draw 3 or use the Cyclops ability. If they deal 3 to me, that's 2, 4, 5. Yeah, they can just deal 3 to me here. Use 3 energy to deal 3 to me, and then attack. And I am dead if I don't do anything. I know that I have a follow-up creature, but they chose not to, so I'm still at 8, which means I am not just dead yet. But they are about to draw 3, and that's probably going to kill me. That cartographer drew 9 cards this game, right? Or was it only 6? It might have only been 6. Only. Air quotes. Yikes. No blocks, and I'm not quite dead to a spell, so whatever. I don't see how I win this game either way. Yeah. Like, I think my best bet is like Cranial Ram off the top. Cranial Ram plus Equip. Yeah. Anyway, we didn't draw that. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 plus 4 was only worth 7 anyway. So yeah, Cranial Ram off the top, still not good enough. We were very dead. Alright, opening hand we have no 1-drop. Bunch of 2-drops, as I guess I should expect out of this deck. We do have to use the landscape pre Pyro Surfer, which is a little sad, but that's okay. Cranial Ram, pass. Probably follow up with Dross Claw. We now have a landscape. Nope. Okay, Pyro Surfer it is. Huh. Just the swamp is interesting instead of the landscape, but that's fine. I guess we were single spelling no matter what we did that turn. Opponent has a Pyro Surfer of their own. Okay, so they want to race. I'm very okay with racing. So, landscape, Transmigrant, Familiar, crack landscape. Do we crack the landscape? What is this? 3, 4, 5, 6. If we crack landscape, 7. Or we can leave the landscape so that we have a guaranteed trigger next turn. Okay, so 7 it is. Okay. Opponent has land for their Surfer. Molten Gatekeeper, sure. What? Adapt, Brood Scale, Trigger, Gatekeeper. Sure. Attack with everything. Get in for 5. I probably chump block the Brood Scale with the Transmigrant. Okay. Stomp Stomp. Kills off my Surfer. That makes sense. No attack with the Pyro Surfer, so no Battle Cry triggers. Sure. Yeah, just save myself a couple points of damage. Just take 2 here. That's fine. Gatekeeper's gone forever. Okay, so what do we got? We can Transmigrant plus Dross Claw, which powers up the Cranial Ram as much as possible. So now they're kind of, yeah, priced into chumping with their Pyro Surfer. I guess not chumping, trading with a Germ with their Pyro Surfer. But now we have the Ram that can go on our Flyer. So unless they have a way to stop the Flyer, 1, 2, 3, 4 is 6. Plus Dross Claw is 7. Yeah. No blocks, equip. The game's over. I don't think we need to Emperor. I think it's just equip. Or not even equip. Just play, equip the Cranial Ram and attack with the Dross Claw is good enough. Yep. Yeah, okay. Okay. Easy peasy. Opponent's Pyro Surfer tried to race our Pyro Surfer. And we managed to be faster. Okay. Alright, so this puts us, I think, playing for the trophy now. If I remember right. We have our 1. We get to curve into our Cranial Ram. So, nice start for us. Happy start. We do have the Pinnacle Monk that we can hang on to. We have 3 of our 6 higher than 2 mana cards in our hand, which means Amped Raptors off the top can live their best lives. We are definitely attacking with the Cranial Ram, and then I suppose there's no good attack with the Transmigrant here. We use the most mana by playing the Soul Trader. I'm not sure it applies the most pressure, but it is the biggest use of mana. It also potentially gets us up to the mana to be able to play the Pinnacle Monk. We don't have anything in our graveyard just yet, but that's okay. There's the non-zero chance that at some point we start looping the Pinnacle Monk with the Pyretic Rebirth, which is very funny, though a very slow and grindy way to go about a game. That's not exactly what this deck is looking for, but it is a possibility. Okay. Opponent roping. Come on, Oppo. Pretty please make a play. I don't have anything to talk about if you don't do something. There you go. Okay. All right, Hex Goldsmith coming down, gaining a life from the Conjurer, getting some energy, not getting them any particularly good blocks, which is good for me. Okay, land number 4 is nice. So we can attack with the Soul Trader, no problem. We can attack with the Cranial Ram with no problem. Yeah, might as well play the Slith since it powers up the cranial ram. Okay. The Conjurer just kind of free blocks the Transmigrant here, so I'm not quite sure why we made this attack. But so yeah, I guess it's neutral because we make the treasure so the cranial ram doesn't lose any power here. We still can't line breaker. So this is the second time that we've drawn the line breaker and just not had the colorless source to be able to cast it, which is a little sad, but oh well. Hitting the cranial ram, I would assume. Do they target the germ token? That's so weird. Why target the germ token? Excuse me. Um, yeah, targeting the germ token does not do what they needed it to do, right? Like, they needed to hit the ram itself. Now they didn't even get the energy. Okay. Alright, Essence Reliquary helps make sense of why target the germ. If their intent was to just get the germ out of play and then rebuy the static prison so that they could deal with anything else, just keep making me use mana to equip it and then removing whatever I do equip. That does lead to needing to chump block a lot. Okay, they are choosing not to use their energy to make sure they get their attack in. In that case, we can equip to the Menace Slith and get in. So now we have a pair of 3/3s and a 4/2 with Menace. So if they want to trade with a Slith, they have to lose their board to do it. Super okay with that trade. And then, yeah, we have the pair of 3/3s. We can equip, but yeah, I don't think that matters much. We know they have the static prison. I guess by putting it on the Transmigrant, it means they have to go after either the Ram or the Transmigrant and leave the Soul Trader alone, which I'm pretty okay with. Amusingly, they can static prison the Transmigrant, then bounce the prison with the Reliquary. I get back a 1/1 Transmigrant, and then they replay the prison to rebuy something. Oh, that was good. I didn't even see the land was a Witch Enchanter. Yeah, that's very good. Well done, opponent. I love that interaction. The Essence Reliquary with the modal dual face lands, but especially Witch Enchanter. I very much I think that just playing the Skoa here and killing the Witch Enchanter before it has a chance to be rebought again is pretty important, but okay. Alright. So I'm not worried about this attack for 2, but opponent can Essence Reliquary the Witch Enchanter back up to blow up my Cranial Ram. Okay. What just happened? Did they float a mana and then replay the land? I'm not sure what happened here. Yeah, attack for 2. Get back this. They have to do something here. This is... I guess they don't know it's lethal, because they don't know I have the Skoa in hand. Dog Umbra. Sure. Alright. So we can put them to 2. Yeah, I don't like putting them to 2. I like killing the Witch Enchanter that is going to make my life miserable. I have too many targets in my deck for that Witch Enchanter to come up and down every turn. Not about that life. Get the Witch Enchanter out of here. Okay. Second Static Prison. Alright. Well, I guess if there's good news, it's that they can't really ever let that Static Prison come back. Or, I get their Witch Enchanter here as well. So, hang on. Okay, so we get their Witch Enchanter. We didn't full control, so we're not trying to attack this turn, I guess. They have to pay energy on the Static Prisons. That's fine. Getting back the Warren Soul Trader means that we get to get back this Transmigrant as a potential threat. Getting back the Skoa means we either get to clear a blocker or put our opponent to 2, whichever seems more in line with what we need in the moment. We could also just get rid of the Reliquary so that they stop, getting these flicker turns. I don't think that's what we need to do here, though. Alright. More energy. Is our opponent a green deck? Do they have green cards? Those are forests, right? I'm not completely crazy. What did they have early in the game? Did they have any green cards? Huh. Alright, so they use some energy to gain a little bit of their life back. Here they go, continuing. They're still missing land drops, so they're still getting to bounce their land to kind of double up on their mana. The kite is fine. Not worried about the kite. Okay. End step. Get back Witch Enchanter. Blow up this Static Prison in particular. Get back Skoa. Shoot down this Gargoyle. That's a okay draw. Yeah, sure. Okay, and now attack with everything. They chump. Okay. Alright, so they chump one of the 4s. It doesn't matter which one, and we get in for 10 damage. So. Alright, there we go. 2 trophies in the last 3 drafts. Yippee. We are officially done skidding and marching forward. So there you go. Nice aggressive deck, good curve. Triple amped Raptor is pretty insane. Very, very happy with how that deck ultimately wound up coming out. We wasted a couple picks on some green cards when we were hedging in pack 1, but once we realized that we were supposed to be in the Rakdos deck, we did kind of stick to our guns. We took Cranial Rams over Writhing Chrysalises in pack 3, I think. Pretty sure it was pack 3. Anyway, stuck to our guns, made sure that our Amped Raptors had a lot of hits. We missed exactly 1 time on an Amped Raptor over the course of those 9 games. And it was a 3-drop. It is what it is. So, yeah, very happy with how that deck came out. It was a lot of fun to play, trying to figure out all the lines, messing up the 1 turn with the Warren Soul Trader when we were trying to trade with a Writhing Chrysalis, and we punted that, but still a good learning experience. So, yeah, that one was a lot of fun. We'll see you guys in the next one, continuing on our march. Hopefully we hit Platinum. Sorry, not Platinum. Diamond in the next draft or two. We're only a few pips away, so one good draft and we're back. We're into Diamond. So, all right, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful night.